Welcome back to YAFFEE Live, Talk Radio 102.3. Glad you have joined the show today. It is that time of the week once again where we speak with Brandon Lewis, who is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. And you can always read his stuff at TennesseeConservativeNews.com and his social media. Brandon, I know we were trying to do video, but I was having some issues, so I think we'll just have to do audio.
Sounds fine. We'll try it again next week.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a radio guy. You're throwing video at me, and I don't even.
Brandon, you're better off if you don't have video of YAFFE.
That's not very nice.
I don't know. I think he's a good-looking guy. He's very dapper. I wouldn't say all that.
Okay.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you. Anyway, we have a lot to discuss on the show today, but how are you, Brandon?
I am fantastic. I'm just roaring through my busy season and my consulting work, which is how I earn my living, and, of course, watching the legislature take off in 2026. And I'm eagerly awaiting and hopeful that we can get some good news out of this session on a variety of topics. At least they're making noise about it, and that beats silence.
Yeah, and you guys are doing a great job covering the latest. It just started, but I know you have a story here where Tennessee lawmakers are going to introduce immigration legislation based on advice from a Trump advisor, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, so it always bothers me when our state government has to be led by the hand by the federal government because, you always hear the state government railing about federal overreach or federal rules or things that are applied that make it harder to do their job when, in fact, most of the time they could just take the bull by the horns themselves. But while we've got a good headwind blowing from Nashville on this topic, I'm glad to see they're partnering with Stephen Miller, and that's a good thing. So we're hoping that happens. And according to Jason Zachary, he said right now it costs about $971 million for illegal immigrants to be in this state. I think $700 million of it is education alone. And he says when we start passing the legislation, Tennessee will be the model for other states to follow. And right now, as we speak, the animated corpse of Randy McNally is giving a press conference, which is always painful to watch. But hopefully we'll see some things come out of this, and we should have details specifically by the next time we get in place. But, just to summarize, every effective bill that would have cut off either employment, education, benefits, things of that nature that would really demagnetize our state, it has been suggested and brought forth in the legislature for at least 5 years since I've been running the Tennessee Conservative, and each bill that's been meaningful and not ceremonial has died in committee. But the good news is typically when leadership pushes on something, it makes it through the session. It's very top down in the legislature. There's not a hey, bring the ideas from your district. It's hey, here are the ideas that Randy McNally and Cameron Sexton have. You can get on board, or you can lose your committee appointments or committee leadership, and then organizations like Americans for Prosperity will target you in the primary for being conservative. That's really what's happened historically. So I'm hoping that we see more substance out of these bills that are actually effective, and they're not just good for public relations and a bullet point on a mailer that they send out heading into the upcoming election. So time will tell.
Yeah, I did see, and you guys were covering this, one bill was put forward by Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson. Two bills, actually, dealing with immigration enforcement. One is a response to an executive order from the Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell, which led to the doxing of immigration agents. I guess that would make that a crime to do that. It'd become a Class C felony. The second bill would prohibit illegal aliens from operating a commercial motor vehicle in the state. It requires the law enforcement agency that arrests such illegals to notify federal immigration authorities. I mean, are those two bills that you would support?
I'm amazed that the one especially related to the CDLs, that is a good sign because that's going to be painful for trucking companies. There's a huge trucking lobby here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, between Covenant Transport, U.S. Express, and others. And I'm glad. I mean, we need truckers. It's the only way that things get to us. But we don't need folks that are undocumented from other countries on the road when we can't verify their background or citizenship, when they're, basically, I mean, a tractor-trailer truck is a weapon of mass destruction. You can kill a lot of people with those on the roads. And so I'm amazed to see that the executive branch has even put out an executive order on this. And it is good to see that Tennessee is following suit. This is probably one of the first reforms that I've seen that will actually be painful in some degree to commerce. And to me, that tells me that there has been a hope, some sort of shift in the legislature where they're getting more serious on this topic.
Well, and it does appear that at least the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security is getting more serious about it. You had this story as well. They announced that over 8,000 Tennessee truckers will be required to verify U.S. citizenship or lawful presence in the country, or face a downgrade to their license status to ensure compliance with federal requirements under President Trump. So you're right. The CDL thing's been a big issue because unfortunately, we've seen people die in accidents created by illegal immigrant drivers. And a lot of times they can't speak English and they don't really know the rules. But, I mean, people have died. So the Trump administration is cracking down on this, and it looks like Tennessee wants to help.
Well, it amazes me in this story. It says approximately 8,800 of the 15,000 commercial drivers will receive a notice by mail requesting citizenship, which, leads me to believe, is it because we suspect that over half of the truckers on the road are here illegally? I mean, it seems like that would be a pretty standard process, would be turning in, something like a birth certificate or some kind of proof of citizenship before you got a commercial driver's license. So I would be very interested to know how that 8,800 number rolled out. But if that's the case, boy, that is a huge percentage.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because it's not really something I think we thought about before, but then you had all these stories come out where this is happening, and we have the Trump administration who's willing to do something about it. Although, anytime you try to do something, there's always pushback. We just look at Minneapolis, for example. I'm speaking with Brandon Lewis, who is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. Want to look at some other stuff as well that's going on in the legislature. You have a story about a bill that is aimed at curtailing drag shows in community spaces, and it's making a comeback as the Tennessee General Assembly is reconvened. So I guess this is something that's come up before. It's going to come up again. What do you think about it?
So, I mean, I think the number one goal of this legislation is very simple. When kids show up to a parade for Christmas, or if kids show up to some kind of publicly held event that's at a taxpayer-funded venue, that in Tennessee we're not going to have men and women's panties shaking their junk at kids. I mean, I think that's a pretty fair, universally appreciated standard.
You would think.
3 or 4%. There may be 3 or 4% of parents out there that are like, say your prayers, take your vitamins, go to drag shows. I don't know how many of them there are. I don't think there are that many, but they are very vocal and they do push back quite a bit. So Chris Todd has updated an amendment. And this is basically, I think, trying to close some of the loopholes that have been used in these blue municipalities to put this stuff in front of kids. And it would include male or female impersonators, along with topless dancers. I don't know how many of those we got out there in public. Go-go dancers. I don't even really know what a go-go dancer is yet. You may have to help me. Exotic dancers.
Like I know?
I know what the last two are. I don't know what the difference between a go-go dancer is and all the rest. But
no idea.
We have to get somebody from the 1950s or 60s that might be able to clue us in on
Max. that. Max can help us then. He's from
Max. What's a go-go dancer?
He's from that era, Captain Max.
You guys quit picking on me.
What's a go-go dancer?
You don't remember what a go-go dancer? You guys don't know what you missed. Got the white boots up in the cage, and they're
I see.
Shaking their booty,
Okay. All right. Well, there you go, Brandon. The expert weighed in on that. On go-go
Thanks,
dancers.
Max. I knew we could get the story from you.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
But, do you think this bill has a chance of passing in all seriousness?
Yes. I mean, I think this is one that the bills that have a hard time passing in the state YAFFEE are not these really social issues related to transgender surgeries, taking pride flags out of school, stuff like that, because there's really not a huge corporate lobby. The bills that have a really difficult time are the ones related to education, because it's, the state's largest government job factory, and they fight for that money tooth and nail, even if the results don't follow the dollars. And other things related to big, companies that are highly dependent on illegal alien labor because they can get it cheaper than domestic labor in Tennessee. Those are the bills that always have a huge uphill battle, because they're also the organizations and the PACs that fund Republican leadership in Tennessee. And so the money, if there's not a whole bunch of money behind any of these issues, they just sail right through, and they're great talking points for the campaign. It's whenever they come in opposition to the moneyed interests that fund the campaigns that you really see that they typically do not make it out of committee.
Oh, okay. I understand. Yeah, sounds like you have a good knowledge of how the swamp works, It's usually...
Yeah, well, how the swamp does not work. We've got a big one in Nashville. So it's amazing people don't catch malaria up there.
I'm speaking with Brandon Lewis, founder of the Tennessee Conservative. Another bill that's being introduced by Gino Bolso, state representative. It's the Protecting Religious Liberty and Expression in Public Schools Act. Is this one of those you're kind of talking about? There's not a lot of moneyed interest here, so maybe it has a better chance of passing? Or will Republicans be a little scared of this one? What do you think?
I think it has a really good chance at passing. I mean, probably the biggest pushback on items of this sort are the lawsuits that follow when, groups like the ACLU and others that used to be all about free speech, unfettered speech, that now are really about let's do as much as we can to influence or silence conservative speech and to propagate and promulgate liberal speech. And that's what that organization has turned into. And I think that you'll have those, and then you'll have folks that, erroneously teach that there's some kind of separation of church and state, as if the state was trying to form the Church of England. That's not what they're trying to do. They're just trying to give students the ability to pray before school, to have a time of Bible reading. Of course, they have to opt into this with a form. Again, this goes back to the litigious nature of the time that we're in, and then also requiring public schools to teach students the Bible as literature, which they should. It is, when you look at literature, the most influential book ever written, the prototype for so much that we have is the Bible, as is it is also the prototype for our government in many respects. It was the most sourced and cited text by our founders for founding the country. And so having that inside the education curriculum seems pretty common sense. It was common sense probably up until about 30 or 40 years ago, since the beginning of the nation's founding. And so hopefully things like this at the state level will help bring some common sense and swing the pendulum back this way, but also just give kids a good understanding of the culture that they're in and how their government was founded, in addition to hopefully finding salvation through the text, because it is alive, it is breathing, it is just as relevant today as it ever has been.
Yeah, I think you're right. And also when you had students or coaches where they were told, oh, you can't pray before a game on the football field or something, completely voluntary, but they said, no, it's illegal. Luckily, the Supreme Court, struck that down and allowed them to do that, but it kind of gives you an example of why a bill like this is probably needed, unfortunately. Brandon Lewis is with the Tennessee Conservative. You can read his stuff and find this very interview at TennesseeConservativeNews.com, the best place to keep up with what's going on in the legislature through 2026, the Tennessee Conservative. Brandon, appreciate it. We'll talk to you again next week.
Talk to you soon, buddy.